I have 7 o'clock. We will call a meeting of Budget and Finance, here tonight together. As you've, budget hearings start, appreciate your attendance. And Commissioner Dennis did, let me know that he would not be able to make it tonight. So we are down one. Appreciate your attendance. I apologize for the changes in time there to this, tonight. We had some, a busy night, it seems. So thank you for showing up at 7, and we will get this moving. Just so everyone's clear in the schedule, the rest of the meetings are at 6 o'clock. All of the rest of the meetings are here except for this Thursday night, which will be held at the Water Department, just like we did last year, honestly, in that same time frame. So this coming Thursday night will be at the Water Department building behind the admin office, 6 p.m. That is the only meeting that is not here at 6 p.m. other than tonight's at 7. All right, with that said, first off, as we're looking at here on our first piece of your overview for tonight's agenda, you see our first one is that estimated tax revenues. If you'll look under your very first page, says statement B there, there's pretty set your estimated at this time penny value, $35,368, which you, if you've seen, Miss Amy was nice enough to get together the tax penny rates for us from 2014 through 2024. And notice, so that no one gets confused on this, 24-25 is the last one. That's the one we're talking of now. It's not just 24, it's 24-25. I know we're in the year 24. Just make sure we're clear there. That is this year's, the last one on there. So there's your, as we're looking at those initial revenues, you can see the on, it says page 3 of 58. If you're looking at the one I'm looking at, it's got a graph here on it. Everybody may be on that same one. It should be about the second page under your first, under your maybe third, fourth page, second on the large packet you were given. So you will see where pieces are looking at. Are there any questions on this first piece of discussion here over penny value?
Question, I noticed we have a sheriff department in the county general.
Mr. Ford, you're saying the 101 has a sheriff's department in it? Is that what we're? Yes, sir. It's in the 101 and in your 111. Yes, sir. So, the 101, this is, houses your sheriff's department under it, houses your EMS under it. It's your county general of all those. They're not separate, broke out entities. Yes, sir. They're housed. I told that incorrectly. Ambulance service 118 is its own fund. Sheriff's department is housed inside the 101. We will get to that as we go along.
What percentage of 48.50% is the sheriff department?
I think we can get that number for you before. We can get that number for you before. I think sheriff's department's next Tuesday night on our schedule. Actually Wednesday night of May 15th. So we can. You want to know what portion of the 48.50 there, the percentage of the whole is the sheriff's department. Just want to be clear. When you say sheriff's department, as I said, there's a 111 as well that the sheriff's department is funded under. There's two pieces that fund.
That's a big part.
Yes, sir.
Everything in it.
I will try to look and see if we can get those numbers that way together. We do have tonight, if it's all with everybody, if you just push your green your button there, the mic, it will allow you to speak to the microphone. It's not on a raised hand. We would keep it orderly. If we have to go to a raised hand and call on you, we can go that way. But I think we're in a meeting that we can handle ourselves in a manner that if you need to speak, don't speak over someone, but you may certainly take that time to speak in this case. We won't, have to call on you. We can see you here. We can talk and discuss this budget. As we're looking through, of course, you see your breakdowns for each of your, each of the budgets that we're looking at here along the way, 101, 116, 118, 131, 141, and 151 as a whole pie there, is what we're actually looking at on that piece of pie. If I need to slow down, tell me to, please, because moving it right along. Tonight's sort of set up, we can get as far as we can, but to get an overview of what we're looking at, what's in front of you. If you will see that next page behind this, you see your penny values as they've grown. I don't know if you've taken the time or had the opportunity to look at each of those and how what percent the penny value has grown over time in the last 10 years. That's a 10-year look back is what we're seeing. You may have had that opportunity. Got it. Not that one, but the one with a lot of work on. Somewhere. I did take a little bit of time and over time, in a 10-year span there, the penny value, starting in 2014 to 2024's estimate, has increased about 85%, is what that's increased. So moving along at a decent pace. If you will notice there's been some slowing, that's over an entirety of 10 years, but it might be nice for you to look at, when we look at 85%, that's a pretty strong increase. When I looked at this, I also tried to look at it from 2019 to now, which is pretty much a midway point of that, and it's a much less growth there. So let's be careful as we're seeing. What I'm saying is that penny's grown heavily. In my view of looking at this budget, it has definitely at 85.4% is what I think I see as the overall percent of increase on the penny value coming in for the tax rate that we're looking at. But as I see that piece, I'm also noticing a much less growth from 19 to now. It's not as fast of a growth is all I'm saying. Are there any questions there? This page is not numbered, but it's the one that starts with 2014 through 2024 and where your percentages have gone or whatnot. You can notice the intake pennies per department on those along the way. Of course, no, there's been some times where 23, it may look a little strange that if you remember, we had a 5-cent increase to the debt service. So there may be, I think that's the only one I remember that we actually increased property tax through this 10-year span. Very strong movement that we only had to increase property tax one time in that. And that was, if you remember, more due to the fact that our interest rates were growing at a very fast pace, not where we were budgeting on debt. No questions here? I know it's a lot of pieces to take in night one. We'll get settled in, get our ideas where we are, and we'll get moving along.
What page you on now?
So I was on the page with the 10 penny values. I'm still looking at the estimated tax revenues is really what we're talking about there in this case. I know there's sales tax to play into this piece, and sales taxes, it has been a nice bump in the county since the choice to let sales tax go to the place where something was ordered has been really nice for the county. I don't remember the law on the TC annotated code on that, but it's been really nice that the county receives the sales tax of any item that was mailed to that address. So it's inside our county. So that's been a help as well. But we are really looking at the property tax, the bulk, the heavy hit of how our budgets are really funded. It should have been on your first page there, Mr. Ford. The next one was laying on your desk today, which is ending fund balances. When you came in, it should have been a long sheet laying on your desk. Statement A is with the top right corner. I know there's a lot of pieces of paper and we'll try to keep page numbers and pieces. If we get to moving too fast, let us know. Are there any questions as you look at the? I would encourage you and I've took some time to look at, and when I say took some time, did some math on percent of growth and percent of pieces. I mentioned those growth pieces. I will, noticed and looked at some different numbers we can talk about along the way. The 101, our penny value has increased, as I said, at 85.4% according to my math. Somebody can check me, you're welcome to. It's called percent of increase or percent of decrease on that part, where our 101 budget has increased at about 98.6%. So it's a little bit outrunning the growth. Everyone had time to settle into the estimated tax revenues and got an idea of what we're looking at here? Yes, sir, Mr. Ford. Can you hear me better there? All right. I was asking if everyone had an opportunity to look at the estimated tax revenues there, sort of where we are, what our penny value is doing, the change we're seeing in our penny value, and the estimate of the 35,368 for this year. In terms of the county, that is not talking about the 111 urban service district yet. As I said, that 10-year change is roughly 85% increase over the time. Of 10-year span that we're looking at. If we're all good with where our revenues are looking at on that one, if there's something you want to reference back to on this page at any time, you're welcome to. I think it's to me, when I say I spent some time on it, I spent some time on it. I think it's something that is important to see how we're growing, what rates we're growing at. I encourage you not just to look at the whole, but as I said about that mid-range there, 2019 to now, there's not near as fast a growth in that piece of the penny value. So there was some heavy years and then it slowed, seems to have slowed. Moving to the next piece, which is your ending fund balance. Ending fund balance. It should have been laying on your table today when you came in. It was not in your packet. That's one of the long sheets of paper. I think that's 8.5 by 14, I believe is what they're called. I'll get you in there. Here you go. You can have mine, sir. Guess I'll take my name tag off. Did everyone find the copy we're referencing right now? This is looking at your fund balances, end of year estimated fund balance. You'll see that over in the second to last column from on the right. Right now, the 101 with a pretty strong projected fund balance of 1.2 million. Sorry for the chatter there. I was looking for this year's estimated fund balance of the budget we're currently in. You can compare the two, the statement A sheet I just handed you and page 39 of your packet would give you a comparison. I apologize. Say it again.
Number,
Yes, sir.
at, it says proposed 2025, revenues over expenditures, that bracketed 3,688,738. Is that a minus or a plus?
That's a minus.
The fund balance actually is down at the bottom, 1,194,000.
Yes, sir. That's the estimated fund balance at that number. If you'll notice along that bottom line item, fund balance June 30th is what we're discussing. I did ask, in case you're wondering there on that piece, the 5,005,621 dollars there, that looks like a large number to the 1.8 that was estimated. There are quite a few grants sitting inside that piece. That we can pull those out if you need to pull them out, but that's what it looks very strong at 5 million, some change, but remember all your grant money sits in there. One positive thing to note is at this point, there is no ARPA setting in there. In the past, that would have had ARPA in it as well, but it's not showing ARPA since ARPA was, if you remember, moved to a new fund a couple of 2 months ago. I think the commission voted that in roughly.
Well, they've always been in those funds. They were just not budgeted.
Now looking at this right, fund balance June 30th, anticipated 23-24, 5,005,621. And then over here, your proposed budget this year is 1,194,000.
Yes, sir. So I was just speaking to that, Mr. Ford, to the 1,000,000, the 5,005,621 dollars that you're referencing. That is the estimated ending 23-24 fund balance. There are quite a few grants sitting inside that number.
Let's see, got to be something sitting somewhere, you're out in three.
3,133,000. We gotta look at those grants. Get that off.
We want to pull those grants that are sitting in that. We certainly will. Mr. Cawthorn, if you will, when you go speak, hit your mic. It's all right. You're no problem at all. Just if y'all will hit your mic, not for me, but for the whole.
Nobody will ask, no one.
Hit that button, please. I got you, I think. There you go.
What is in here that, we haven't been doing? Do we have raises in here? And what percentage? Pardon?
2.5.
And that equaled out to what? You got the figure anywhere close?
If I understand it correctly, roughly 300.
Last year's 382,000. What is it this year? It'd be more. It'd have to be more.
I may be incorrect, but this year I believe it's 350 and something. Very close to 350,000. I don't think last year was 380.
It'd be less.
I don't think last year was 380, but I could be incorrect.
I thought it was 382,000.
I believe it was around 330, if I remember that number correctly.
It would have to be more this year than last year,
Yes, sir.
unless we fired a bunch of people.
No, sir. I think you'll find a few positions in here if you look it over closely.
Well, at that rate, in about 3 to 4 years, 2.5%, you won't have any fund balance.
Mr. Ford, I said the same with you, and I don't disagree with you at all, sir. Don't disagree at all. I 100% agree on where you're talking about. If we continue growing at that rate of expenses just to paying employees, it will.
It take 4 years to get it to where I'm just figuring it in my head. 4 years, it's 2.5 every year. You won't have nothing left.
That's-
And when we adopted that back when you was on the board, we said we would if we could. If we didn't want to, we didn't.
That was exactly the,
So it's gonna be that, I guess, well, the commission wants to put another, you said 350,000 in.
it's very close to 350,000. We can get an exact number, or we can't get exact in the fact that we have some hourly wage pieces, but we can get very close. There's this thing called overtime that comes to play.
Yeah.
And we don't know what that's gonna be.
What I'm saying is, we had a dramatical drop. There's got to be some money going somewhere else other than that. You said there was a lot of grants in there?
We're gonna get those pieces. I was given the information that there were a lot of grants attached to inside that piece. But I
Sitting in
agree.
that 5 million.
Yes, sir. One of them being the park still hasn't been paid out. Maybe some of the equipment has, but not a total on that piece. There's quite a bit of money still sitting on that park.
Can't be that much money.
Not 5 million, no, sir, not a million, it may be close to a million. It may be close to a million. I don't know the exact number still sitting on that one.
Still, that's still, you're talking 4 million and you pull in 330, then now there's something somewhere else.
I will not
It
disagree
can't
with.
be that low. 3 million and, well, it's over 3 million. It turned near 4 million.
Mr.
It's
Ford,
gotta be in here somewhere. I ain't had time to research it to find it, but it's gotta be in there.
we will try our best to get that number. We'll try our best to find that number exact so we can get that close to $3 million we're talking
What
about right here.
I'm looking for is, what are we spending money on this year that we didn't spend money on last year to pull 3.75 million out of our fund balance? I know you said there was some grants, yeah, they ain't that many.
Well, Mr. Ford, there's 350,000 worth of raises. There's a couple of positions in here, and there may be some raises that are above that in here as well. There's also, if you've looked at your elected officials, and I went up drastically, I assume that means we went over the mark that was, they got a 5.95 from the state this year, your elected officials. So that is without going over the 12,000 one person. That is not going over the 12,001 individuals in the county. Ooh, mercy.
What is our percentage of the park fee? I know we got a grant, but don't we have a percentage in there too, Amy?
It was a 50-50 grant.
50 grant. What did it cost?
I think the original estimate was 1.2 million.
1.2 million?
Yes, sir.
So that's
600.
$550,000 of it right there. Have we got that money, the grant money in yet?
It's a reimbursement.
You don't get it till you spend it. But it's in our budget right here, as if we had it, right?
Yes.
place here for 700 some thousand, which is still 3 million somewhere.
Mm. I'm missing the numbers. There's a total difference from the estimated end of the 23-24 to, or they budgeted to the estimated end of about 3.1 million, a little over.
You got 119 from 500, it's a lot more than that.
Uh,
It'd be 1.8 million.
We're getting a little over 3.1 when I, if I, 5 million to 1,000,008. Is that got the ARPA funds and whatnot in? Mr. Ford, we will strive to get a little bit more of those numbers for you. That you're looking at, exactly what grants are setting in there, in those pieces. What I was handed here from last year's same page. Last year's the 22-23 estimated end of year balance for fund balance was at 2.5 million. Ended, I'm sorry, the budgeted was at 2.5 million. So in previous year, not this last year, but the year before. So last year we budgeted, had an estimated amended budget of 1.8 million. The year prior, we had an estimated fund balance ending of 2.5 million. There's where I think you're seeing that decline piece. It still had an estimated end at 5.1, very close to the one we're at here.
We're exhausting all of our base every year,
Um,
literally exhausting. I mean, without home growth, where would we be this year?
Hurting.
And we're exhausted that every year, plus some more.
I think I know exactly what you're speaking to there, and yes, if you're talking about growth money, is that what we're discussing? When we're talking about growth for this year, you think about it, we grew a little over, the penny grew just a bit over $1,000. So that's $198,000 of growth. That's what you're referencing.
But we're spending,
In property tax, a little over $198,000, $200,000 of additional property tax should be coming to the county this year. Whereas you're mentioning that we're raising, our raises look to be $350.
that much plus our growth.
So Mr. Ford, what I'm saying is that is the growth.
It is this year,
Yes, sir.
but you're gonna have growth next year too, hopefully.
That would be the case, that there'll be more come in.
The fund balance is gonna do that.
I think I'm where you are and where we're going. What you're mentioning is fund balance is getting dipped into. We have an estimate of 1.1 at the end of this year proposed. Our proposed,
Almost 1.2.
you're very close, yes, sir, 1.2. I should have said, you're exactly right. Whereas last year's proposed was 2.5. I think that's what you're mentioning. Do we-
That's our base. That's where we're broadening out right there.
Uh,
If we have a bad year, then there will be no growth there.
I only see our growth of $200,000. That's all I'm seeing in growth money,
Yeah.
$200,000.
agree.
That's all I can
That's
find.
what I see too.
As we're looking at that discussion and going through it, don't forget that the one thing that's been sitting in our budgets, and I will mention this here now, since we've come to this conversation, since 2021, we've had this great piece called ARPA that we could buy a lot of pieces out of. In this budget meeting, we chose to buy a lot of things that were necessary buys last year. That is where I was headed with that conversation, is we are in a state of the county's budget seems to be growing, as I mentioned earlier, ahead of the penny value. That was why my first comment was the 101 has grown at 98.6% over 10 years, whereas the penny value has only grown at 85%. There is a truth that at some point in time, we've got a problem, is what that's saying.
I guess, sum up what I was saying here, I think this board needs to make a decision, could even be done now or later, as to whether they're gonna support a 2.5% increase, which is, you said, $350,000. Still believe it's more, but I'll live with that.
Mr. Ford, are you asking that we get a budget prepared without the 2.5%?
I didn't say that. I said this board needs to make a decision whether they're gonna recommend to the body or not that 2.5% increase. There's gonna come a point in time when we ain't gonna be able to do it. That,
All right, as we will move on from that piece for a second. We see our ending fund balance that you've got in front of you. We can talk those numbers more if we need to in the near future, that as this committee moves onward. But we will move into debt service now. 151, and that is page, give me a second. I didn't write that one down. 50. Thank you. Page 50, we're moving in along with our debts, to debt service, along with our agenda for tonight. 50, 50, yes, sir. The, as I look at debt service, the big piece here was last year, and I believe it was the right move for this county. If you remember, we consolidated our loans into one location, and we have a fixed rate on all of our debts at this current time. So things look, at least we know what to budget and where to budget on those pieces. A fixed rate is very easy to understand where it's going and what's needed. If Mr. Dennis were here, I'm sure he would be looking for the dollars that have are accruing on some of our CDs that are setting, that we ask that all those CDs end here. Their interest rate, the interest on those CDs come back to here, which are a couple CDs out that this has been asked to come to here. I'm sure that will be a conversation we can come back to. CDs haven't matured at this point, so that would be they were on 6 months. They have matured
It was the 20,000 deposit.
into 151. If you didn't hear that, there were $20,000 on that deposited in 151. Maybe we can get those back out on another strong 6 month. Is there any question on the 151? At this time, there is no new debt up inside 151. If you go look, there are some requests that are coming out of fund balance, such as some new vehicles that may be coming out of fund balance that we're not taking on debt for. The sheriff has, I believe, 5 total vehicles in the request. I believe 7 last year, and the last time I asked, those 7 had not been purchased.
Were we at 7 last year?
We were at 7 last year. 3 the year before, 5, and then 7. My bad on that. 3 2 years ago, 5 last year, or 7 last year, and asked for 5 this year in this budget. It didn't come in this budget, but in last year's budget, you'll know the 116 solid waste last week, a piece came out of the 111 for that new truck. So that one looks a little weird as well.
You got 5 or 6 billion.
Not on this one. I can only find 5 that I have found so far.
Or you say somebody else big truck?
If you'll remember, the 111, we purchased for 116 out of 111's fund balance, a new trash door-to-door trash truck on, I believe that was in March. It might have been April.
We did that.
No, sir.
We didn't do it.
No, sir. That was out of the 111 fund balance. Now, last year, a roll-off truck came out of ARPA. Yes, sir. A roll-off truck and a backhoe, I believe, was for that 116. All right, if there's no discussion there on 151, I would ask this committee if they all are in favor of the way the 151 is proposed to you.
All right, now, since the county don't owe that much money.
The county's debt is in a pretty good place currently. That's, yes, sir. Fortunately, ARPA has been very fortunate to us in those pieces. We have been able to purchase some needed vehicles without having to go into debt.
Or- yeah.
That's correct. But they've been there as a big piggy bank that's not there any longer. I believe we have about
420.
a little less than 10% of what was original left. Yes, sir.
Consider getting some cars and all that.
Mr. Ford, I'll take the advice as you give it along the way, if that's a wish of the body, but my opinion of that would be emergencies would be needs at this point with only 10% of that money left.
What does cars cost, 55,000?
Let's wait till we get to the sheriff's budget for that. Let's look at the 151 and how does this committee feel with the 151 budget as proposed? Don't all speak at once. Let me ask this question. Is there a desire of the committee to put more funds into the 151 to cover debt? Is there a worry about this debt? Where is the concern? As we noticed, we put it on a pay scale. We know what our payments are for the next 10 years on this one. I believe it was 10-year note that we went with. There was a 10 and a 12 option. We moved to the 10 on that piece. So we know over the next 10 years what debt looks like as long as we don't incur additional.
It's locked in.
That's correct. Our debt rate is locked. We will not have to worry about that piece. Ms. Overman?
We are spending more than we are putting in this fund, correct?
Say it one more time.
We're spending more than we are putting in this fund. Are we going to go into fund balance on every single fund? I have a problem with that.
Will not disagree with the conversation you're having. That is why fund balance, as we mentioned, estimate of 2.5 the year prior and an estimate this year of 1.2. Fund balance is quickly depleting. I would like to see where we're actually at in terms of grants and pieces that are sitting to pull out of that. But you are correct. Fund balance is getting hit.
Just so everybody knows,
Mr. Ford?
we've give raises 3 year plus a major COVID check in a row. This will be 4 year in a row, plus the COVID if we do it this year.
I think you're referring to the COVID bonus that was given in 2020 out of ARPA. And the step raises that started in 2021, if I remember that correctly. Raises from their own.
4th year, the raise.
I'm not sure it's not 5. I think we did a 50-cent raise the
No,
year
it's
before.
4 plus the COVID check.
I believe we did a 50-cent across the board, $1,000 raise across the board the year before that.
Well, we're doing now. We have everybody, the low man, the upper man.
Mr. Ford, if you wish to propose that, we'll take any, I'll get there. We can get to those conversations as we get to those pieces in those puzzles. I won't disagree. The big piece in front of you that it seems this committee is asking for is not to dip into fund balance as heavy as we're dipping into fund balance. I would say that debt service is a very safe fund right now for us in terms of where debt service has been heading. Don't forget that a few years ago, debt service was looking at a 2% interest rates where we're now locked in at least at a 4.025 or something of that nature. I have to look at it. I didn't see it on here. It may be, and I may have missed it. Yeah, I think it's 4.02, roughly in that range. I can't remember. 4.12, I apologize, was the main one I was reminding myself of, roughly 4.12.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if we build a jail, it's
Mr.
gonna be
Ford,
a
let's don't go there.
whole lot more down the road.
Let's don't go there right now. I won't disagree with what you're talking about, but that is not in front of this budget tonight, not part of this budget. Not part of this budget. As I'm looking at 151, is there a goal in looking at 151 debt service? I'll be honest with you, if I were sitting out there right now, and if I need to ask Mr. Gregory to come up here, I don't mind a bit making a motion on this one myself.
I don't mind to make a motion to approve this one. I'm just moving forward with these funds. I'm not gonna be okay with dipping into the fund balance every single time. So at some point, we're gonna have to talk about decreasing expenses and raising our revenue. That's all I'm saying. I will make a motion to approve this.
I appreciate your view on that one 100% because we are in agreement
Okay,
in that move.
got it.
I'm very comfortable with our debt is the only reason I say that about our debt.
Absolutely.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the 151 as proposed. Any discussion on that? If not, let's vote with, how hard is it? No. Let's vote with voice. We will work on that as we go forward with a few more. If all those in favor of approving the 151 as written or as proposed for this year's budget, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? 151 is favorable. I will not disagree with this committee. We have some tough decisions to make along the way in this budget. There are some interesting pieces, and I'm not one to keep putting it off down the road. ARPA has been a friend. Fund balance has been nice, and it is getting hit. All right, I'm trying to leave those in order. That will put us back to get back on pace. We are on page 10, which is looking at the beer board 51-220. Page 10. You're at the bottom, if you will note. That's 51-220. We're not looking at 5100 currently. We're on page 10, bottom, 51-220, your beer board.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I have a motion to approve as proposed.
Second.
Have a second. I believe it's a status quo budget, if I see it correctly. I think there's $1 less, actually. We do have a motion and a second by Mr. Ford to approve with a favorable recommendation. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed with a nay? It is favorable. If you will, turn one more page. We'll be on page 11. Still in 101 General Fund. We are under the county attorney. This is Mr. Beller's fund, 51-400. You're at the bottom, 51-400. Again, a status quo.
I will also make a motion to approve that one as well.
I have a motion to approve by Ms. Overman. I have a second by Mr. Gregory. Are there any discussion? Mr. Ford,
Are we paying him 82,000 a year, or is that including a lot of the work he done on that rock quarry down there?
So, Mr. Ford, it does include his full salary, the rock quarry, all the pieces. But as you'll notice, his estimate of 23-24 is $65,000.
It's a long way from where we started.
If
We started about 32 or 3.
if there was some changes made about 3 years ago to the way his payments went, that's correct. He was having a heavier draw at that time. He's dealing with a few, as we know, pieces. Rock quarry has still been in conversation, so with litigation, as I'm saying that part. This is a status quo from last year. We hope he doesn't have that need of that amount of draw.
I'm just saying, we're spending too much money right there.
Mr. Ford, here's what I will say. Litigation is important. I appreciate the job he does, and I think he does a quality job
I'm not
of it.
complaining about the job he does, but the one meeting we need him at is the court meeting. We don't need him at all these committee meetings. You don't make decisions there, you just come up with ideas that you're gonna go to the court with, and the court approves them. But there's no reason in the world for him to be at those committee meetings.
I think he only comes when he's asked to come. I have, as a chair, a few times asked him when certain things were sitting on the docket for that night. I have a couple of times asked him to be at the meeting, but I realize it costs money to have him at the meeting. But I want his legal opinion when I've asked. I can only think of a few times along the way I've asked him to be there. He doesn't come to most committee meetings. He is at work session. He is at the, actual county court meeting. But
That's where we need him, right there.
won't disagree with you at all. I think that's mostly the only places he is actually at. Um, back on track here, did we have a motion here? I believe we'd had a motion and a second. If I remember, that was from Ms. Overman, and a second by Mr. Gregory. Any more discussion on this? It is status quo. Hopefully it comes in under budget again. But there are litigations still pending that he is dealing with as well. I do have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed?
You know,
No.
I think we're way out of balance. Their fund balance is going, going, going.
Mr. Ford, duly noted. Our next page, archives, is page 15. If you will turn, page 15, yes, sir. That is 51, 910, also at the bottom. There is a slight increase in the budget. You can see where those mostly set, $500 in office supplies, an increase. Sorry, $1,000, if I looked at that correctly. My bad. Furniture and fixtures, file cabinet, bookcases.
Which actually less than it was last year, only,
It's a bit of an increase.
just a little more.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Overman, and a second by Ms. Atwood. I appreciate your motion there. It's a fine, piece. Any discussion? All those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. It is favorable. All right, if you will, continue, page 18. We are moving into data processing. And that is a word that continues to get more expensive. 52,600, also at the bottom of your page. 52,600, data processing. Whether we like it or not, these services get more expensive.
We don't have a job.
They get more expensive. Ms. Atwood,
Motion to approve.
motion by Ms. Atwood,
Second.
second by Ms. Overman to approve. Any discussion in this budget? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is favorable. We are skipping quite a ways, page 37. Our next one, as you're looking at page 37, community development, 58,190. 58,190 is at the top of your page. Economic and community development. Always good to see a budget that is declining, I guess.
Motion to approve.
Before you do, I will state, I believe the CDBG grant is one of those grants sitting at about $500,000. That's part of that 5 million. We talked about the 3 million. So that is 500,000 of that. Roughly 1/6 of that 3 million we were looking for.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to move the 58,190 with a favorable recommendation as budgeted proposed. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is favorable. Hopefully, we'll come up with the rest of those grants as we go through here. There's 1/6 of it. If you will, turn to page 38. There's that account we always wonder, what is other charges? 58,400 other charges. Here's a breakdown of those. Sorry, I was noticing, line 101, 58,400, 506 liability insurance seems to be on a pretty steady increase and was just questioning why. I know insurance goes up, but that's at a pretty heavy rate. Looks to be we've had a few, workman's comp and a few, we know there's been some, deer activity with our police, patrol cars. Any questions anyone may have in this 58,400 other charges? Motion.
To approve it.
Have a motion by Mr. Ford to approve.
I second.
Have a second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? With a nay, it is a favorable recommendation. All right. You are also on page 38 with 58,900. It is the third up from the bottom of your accounts there, 58,900, which is miscellaneous. Whoa.
That's all those organizations we donate to.
Motion to approve. Second.
Same amount as last year, or we raised some of them?
It appears we raised some.
When I was looking.
I was just getting to that point. We increased $8,000 and it looks like the 8,000 is a fair contribution of $8,000. Mayor, do you know what that might be? Mayor, I apologize. Will you move to the microphone just for our public?
The state of Tennessee contributed $20,000 to all the county fairs last year. This year, they cut that money out. And so the county fair is gonna have a $20,000 shortfall, so we included that in the budget to help them meet their costs.
Mayor, what fair does that go through? What fair board is that through our fair board? To run?
Yeah, yes,
So what are they running through that fund?
I'm sorry.
What are they funding
I
with
mean,
that?
it's ultimately the cost to run the fair, to operate the fair.
Rising, et cetera.
the cost to run the fair for that.
The entire fair, yeah. Prize money, a lot of it goes to the prize money especially for 4-H. Now, I will say that each year we do make a $4,000 contribution through the Agriculture Extension Service as a part of the fair. This is separate money because of the shortfall.
We have a motion to approve 58,900 as presented. Do I hear a second? Oh, I did. I apologize. I did not hear the second. That's probably what you said. I'm going deaf, I believe. So I do have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Ford, second by Ms. Overman, for I got off track. I didn't write it down. I apologize. So I had already taken a motion and a second from Ms. Atwood and Ms. Overman. My apologies. I did not write it down this time. I generally do. I'm fixing to call for a vote. So all those in favor of 58,900 as proposed, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is favorable. Oh, yeah, certainly. Let's look at, while we're sitting here, let's go on and look at 58,600. We got a minute here. Yeah, let me just find it where it's at. Where did I miss it? I was just about to say. 58,600 employee benefits is a status quo entirely.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Ms. Overman. I have a second by Mr. Ford. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye. Aye. Do you know any more we missed? All right, at that point, I would like, we're coming towards, well, that is the end of our agenda for tonight. One reason was I wanted us to all get a minute to talk of our feelings at the beginning of this piece and where we're headed. What exactly would you like to be brought to the table? I understood. One question I have written is the sheriff's take of the 101. What portion is the sheriff's of that 48.5% of the budget? Another question I have written is where in the fund balance, where is the, sorry, let me get back on track here. Where is the missing 3 million and some change that is declining from that we talked about grants and pieces of? Those are the two questions that I have currently on my plate here. There was a third, but I'm not sure if it was discussed any further. Was there the question was not necessarily a question, but a statement of where are we going to cut and not cut fund balances? At some point in time, if we're gonna try to look at cutting some pieces out of this budget, where do we want to cut those from? That's more of a question to this committee at this point in time. I will mention it. We stated there are some vehicles, not as many in this one as there have been in the past. There's not as much ARPA fund available. There is a 2.5% raise that is sitting in there. There are some other ones if you want to go look at that have a little bit stronger funds, raises to those positions. There are a couple of new positions in here as well. Before we get to those, we will get to those in the next couple of days. I'll let y'all look for them and go with that piece. But what I'm saying is laying out, if we're going to look at this piece and not be comfortable with the fund balance draw as we are, and the continued depletion thereof, then we need to look at where that conversation is going to go. Where are we cutting dollars?
I just like to know what the rest of it is.
Understood?
The way I see this is we're looking at 3.6, 3.7 that we're trying to make up here, right? So that we're not doing a fund balance draw. right? That's what we're looking for. Are we gonna be able to cut that much or are we gonna
No.
increase taxes? Because that's where we're at, right? We're increasing revenue and decreasing expenses because I don't believe we're gonna be able to do it with just one.
Hey, please, Mr. Ford, let's make sure we let Ms. Overman speak and finish it up.
That, I'm just saying, I don't think we can cut enough of the expenses to make up and not do a fund balance draw. I don't mind to stand up and say it's time to raise taxes.
There is another way of sourcing that piece. My view is, it has not happened often. It has grown at 85.4% in 10 years, which is a strong growth on the penny value. I'm, are we comfortable, and I'll pose this question now, are we comfortable with a conversation of raising cost of taxes just to continue to raise pay? Because that's really where the majority of the increases are at in this budget. So that's what we're looking at, because when you head that route, you're heading that route continuously, is all I'm saying. That is that mark will not stop. There's not a lot of new projects. There's not a lot of new dollars. The draw that is continuing to come that we're talking about is continued raises, salary increases.
Can we find out what the percentage of our total budget is payroll?
Your question was, what
How
percent?
much of our budget is payroll?
What percent of total budget is payroll? In all accounts. Okay,
One thing in particular, our insurances and the cost of everything is continuing to go up. That's also eroding away on our fund balance, but this year is too much missing. It's got to be somewhere.
we will get some of those pieces of the grant so we can know what we're at least looking at. I thought it important that we mention, as I said, last year's budget, budgeted amendment, page 38 of last year, it's page 39 this year. If you want to go look at the piece, the fund balance expected, but fund balance was 2.5 million, whereas the proposed budget for this year was an ending fund balance of 1.5 million. I think that's about as clear as I can be on where those numbers really are. There have to be some decisions made. There are always ways of making that. Are we talking about cutting or are we talking about increases? There may be both. A balance can always be nice. Any other discussion?
One thought.
Mr. Ford?
We knew 3 years ago, we incremented the 2.5%, that there might come a time we couldn't keep doing it consecutively every year. And I know we've been 4 years plus a large COVID check in giving our people a raise. That ain't all of it. There's some more money somewhere. And I know insurances and all those things, the cost of everything has went up. But I don't know where the rest of it is. Matter of fact, there's about 2.7 million somewhere.
Of other money we're looking for that 3.1.
Other than, raises.
Any other discussion at this point?
You covered everything we're gonna cover tonight.
We have covered everything for tonight. I do encourage you to look at your tax rates, that sheet that's 10 years in running, and get a view of where the penny value is headed. I told you 85.4% over a 10-year period. Look at it from about 2018, 2019, from that range, and see what you see there as well. I don't mind doing the math for us, but just see where you are. There's some pieces that we really need to see, and where is the trend going? That's all I'm looking at. That is correct.
dropping fund balance 3.2 million.
We have a few numbers in there we're still gonna bring to the table before that comes to the table.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion I heard to adjourn, second. Non-debatable. All those in favor, go ahead and stand up and leave.